without further ado, I want to welcome our first speaker to this content strategy session that we've got. Joining me is Laura, and she's going to be talking about how to build useful audience personas. If we could have a big round of applause, please, everybody.
Thanks, Calvin. Wow, can you guys hear me? Yeah, excellent. How cool is this? I was pretty nervous behind the scenes, and one of the chaps just told me apparently this is the stage where ABBA as part of their Eurovision entry. So feeling like a pop star right now. Anyway, my name's Laura, and I'm here from a digital marketing agency called Impression. And I'm going to talk to you about how to build useful audience personas to help guide your digital marketing strategy. But before I get started, I just want to say hi to a few people. And first, I want to say hi, Sarah. I want to say hi to Dan, and I want to say hi to John. Now, who are these people, you might be wondering? Well, these are the personas that I created when I was thinking about building this slide deck for all of you today. And I'll come back to those in a little while. So why am I here to talk about personas then? Well, for me, it is only when we truly understand our audience that we can create content that engages with them and that encourages them to convert, which is really important in all of our roles. And how are we going to do that? Well, that's what I'm going to tell you over the next 20 minutes. So I'm going to take you through 4 steps to gathering information about your audience and to building your personas. And then I'm going to talk to you about how you can integrate those personas into your digital strategies. So step 1 then, you need to gather your basic audience information. There are various ways that you can do this, but the best place to start is by asking people. Now, if you're working in an agency, this means asking your client. And if you're working in-house, speaking to your team and asking the questions, who do you sell to? Where are they based? How do they find you? What do they need? When you ask these questions, you can get some really good insights into who your audience is. I did this as an exercise recently with our client, Donington Park, which is a racetrack up in the Midlands, and we actually did this as a workshop. So we had the whole marketing team all together in one room, and we went through these questions. And what they found is that they were revealing insights about their audience that they hadn't even shared with each other before. So if you can do this in a workshop format, that can be really beneficial. The next thing is to back this up with sales data. So if you've got a CRM or if you've got any way that you're tracking both new leads coming into your business and your closed sales, that can be a really good source of insight about where your customers are based, for example, what types of businesses they work in, maybe their job titles. You can back that up as well with sales insights. So have a think about talking to your sales teams and saying, how do you qualify your leads? That's going to reveal some desirable attributes amongst your audience. So they're fairly basic things that we can do, but they just get us started on getting that real understanding of who we're trying to target. So at this point, you'll have your demographics, maybe some job titles, some sales insights, some desirable attributes. And that's step 1. Now, for a lot of businesses, that's where that road ends. They think, well, we've gathered some basic information about our audience, we don't really need much else, let's get going. But I disagree. For me, it doesn't stop there, and to truly understand our audience, we need to delve even deeper. So that brings us to step 2, thinking about your audience motivations. Anyone remember this chap, by the way, Mr. Motivator? I had so much fun Googling him. There's some great videos out there. So we're going to think about what actually motivates your audience. And that means answering the questions like, what motivates your audience? What challenges do they face? What do they think about? And what interests them? So how are you going to find this out? Well, the first way might be through customer surveys. If you've ever conducted a survey yourself, you'll know that you can do this in various different ways, over the phone, email, whatever it might be. But it can reveal some really interesting insights about your audience, as well as helping with audience retention. When we ask our customers what they think and to give us their opinions, it can lead to them being more loyal to our brand as well. So customer surveys are a really powerful way of finding out what motivates your audience. We did this with one of our clients at Impression called Company Check. It's a big UK business data site. And we ran a survey where we asked just over 1,000 of their users to tell us about the challenges that they were facing within their businesses, what challenges they expected to face, and some basic information about what industry they were in, the size of their business, and so on. And that gave us loads of really useful information about what topics and motivations that audience has. And we're now creating content around each of these things to better engage that audience. So surveys don't just give you useful insight, you can actually use them in your marketing too. As an aside, we also got that survey featured in various different places around the web, including Forbes and International Business Times and some smaller industry-related publications too. So it's definitely worthwhile putting the time in to conduct customer surveys. The next way that you can investigate audience motivations then is to do your keyword research and look at related queries in the SERPs as well. So here's an example. Apologies if it's a little bit small for the guys up there, but if you were selling, let's say, SEO services, as many of us here are, you could put into Google SEO services, check out the related searches at the bottom of the page, and we'll see some themes coming up. So some of the related services here are things like affordable SEO services. How much do SEO services cost? SEO service pricing. Clearly, amongst this audience, price is a motivating factor. We've also got terms like SEO services Bromley, SEO services Reading, SEO services Kent. These location-based queries are cropping up, and that indicates that location is a motivating factor for this audience as well. If we're looking at something like business electricity, again, we see the same themes coming up. Business electricity price comparison, for example, business electricity rates. For this audience too, price is a motivator. Then we've got things that I've called application-based. So in this example, for business electricity, people are searching for small business electricity rates. This indicates that they're interested in understanding how these services apply to their specific businesses, and clearly that application of service is a motivating factor for them. And then finally, in the last example, if you are lucky enough to be selling something as cool as cupcake icing, you might find that the related searches around this include, again, the application idea of looking for cupcake icing recipes, cupcake icing techniques, how we're going to use this product. Flavor as well is a motivating factor for these searches, so they're searching for chocolate icing, buttercream icing, and ease of use as well. So just by having a look at the related searches on the Google SERPs, we can get some really interesting insights about what motivates our audience. And also through the Google Keyword Planner and whatever keyword tools you're using, have a look for common themes that come up and what that can tell you. There's another really cool tool that you may or may not have seen already. This is something called Answer the Public that we've started using over the past few months. And what you can do with this is just pop in your search term, and it will give you lots more search terms based on various different permutations of that word. So in this example, I've dropped in SEO, and in one section of Answer the Public, it will give you back questions related to that term by appending terms such as where, which, who, what, why, etc. to your original term. So in this example, you can see there are loads and loads of questions coming up just for SEO. So this is a really cool tool to give you some questions that your audience might be asking and therefore provide you some insight into their motivations as well. We can also use on-site search and popular content to understand what motivates our audience. So if anyone's using a website that has an on-site search bar, you'll know that within Google Analytics or whatever platform you're using, you'll be able to see what people have been searching for and how frequently those terms come up. That gives you an indication, again, of what topics are of interest to this audience, what questions they're asking, and therefore what motivates them. You can also look at popular content on your site. So if you go onto your behavior section on Analytics, have a look at the top blog posts, for example, you can extract themes from those that, again, give you that insight into your audience motivations. Frequently asked questions as well, they can be really useful. So by this, I mean looking at what people are asking on your site, if you've got an FAQ section, but also speaking to your customer services teams, your sales teams, and finding out what do people ask about when they're looking to buy our services or products or when they're already using them. Here's an example from one of our clients. They're a national water softener manufacturer, and they actually integrated FAQs into their website, which meant that people could come on, ask these questions. We therefore get some information about what's motivating that audience. And each question that's asked is automatically saved as a draft post in the back end. So once the customer services team have responded to that query, providing the content's unique and useful enough, we can choose to put that post live on the website, giving us some great content as well. So FAQs reveal great insights and can also be used to produce new content for your site as well. So now I want to go just a little bit further. So at this point, we've gone through our basic audience insights. We've thought about what motivates our audience. And step 3 is to look at what topics appeal to this audience and what interests them. And there are various ways that you can do this too. So one of my favorite ways is to follow conference topics. So let's say I knew that I was trying to appeal to people who work in, let's say, marketing. I could have a look at the conference topics for something like BrightonSEO and get some really good insights into what topics those speakers are talking about, and therefore what's of interest to those audience members at that time. Following conferences can be really valuable. Also, social media. So obviously people are talking about your brand, your services, they're talking about the topics that interest them all the time. I use Hootsuite as a tracking tool for social media. There's plenty of others out there. But the key is to extract those topics that are of interest and use it as part of your audience understanding. And also look at your competitors and other websites that are trying to appeal to a similar audience. The chances are they're going through these exercises as well. They want to write and produce content that appeals to their audience. So by following what they're up to, you can get some inspiration to maybe inform your own strategy too. So hopefully that's kind of shown you that while some businesses think they've hit a bit of a dead end in the road, when they've gone through that basic audience understanding and think, well, that's it, that's all I need to do. Actually, there's a lot further that we can go. And once you've gathered all that information then, step 4 is to actually build your personas. So for me, this is how personas work. We start off with those broad audience segments, we move down into motivations, and then finally we can build those usable personas. So you start off with your basic segments. Now for each segment, you can then apply the motivations, and then you can start consolidating segments via the overlapping motivations. So basically what I mean by that is that you'll find a lot of your different audience segments share the same motivations. So you can start pulling them together. I'll give you a practical example of this. Oh, that's all the stuff that we did in the workshop for Donington Park, so nothing you can't achieve with big paper and a big pen. So this is the example. I mentioned that I created some personas ahead of today's talk. And let's say we had in the room today marketing managers or people who are kind of a bit more advanced in their marketing career at the moment. They might be looking to stay up to date with topics at BrightonSEO. They might be looking to learn techniques, maybe find new tools or meet other experts. Potentially we've got marketing executives in the room, or people who are a little earlier on in their career, who are maybe here to improve their own basic understanding, consolidate their existing skills, learn new techniques, and build their own networks. And then maybe we've got some business owners in the room, so people who don't directly work in a marketing role, but who are here to improve their basic understanding, get a strategic overview of how all of this fits into their business, find new opportunities, and maybe build some networks too. So as you can see, a lot of those motivations actually overlap with one another. And that's how I came up with Sarah. She's my first persona. And I've built her by just consolidating a group of motivations into one. So I've called her my explorer. She wants to learn new techniques, she's seeking new tools, she enjoys testing new ideas, and she's keen to discuss her opinions with others. I said hi to Dan at the beginning. He's my consolidator. So he wants to consolidate his knowledge, compare his own ideas with those of people around him, and he's looking to meet other experts as well. And then John, he's my strategist. So he wants to develop a better understanding, he's looking for new opportunities to grow, and he's considering the strategic effect of what he's seeing today. So that's how I built my personas, and that's the basic kind of framework of them. Now, for me, the final step is that personas actually become more powerful when we're able to empathize with them, when we're able to visualize them as real people. And the way that we do that is by adding some more human traits to them. So Google Analytics can help you out with this. Firstly, if you have a look in your audience section on analytics at the affinity categories, this is where Google will tell you what topics are of interest to the people that are visiting your site. And that will give you some insight into what else they're interested in, some more of those human factors. There's also this tool, the YouGov Profiler. Has anyone used this before? A show of hands. So we've got quite a few people in the room. So this is quite fun. It's free to use, and basically you can go in and put in, let's say, an interest or a brand name or something like that, and it will deliver back to you, based on the records of over 400,000 people that subscribe to the site, some insights about that audience. So in this example, I've popped in advertising, marketing, and public relations as the interest, which probably represents the majority of us here. And Hugo was telling me that we are customers of LinkedIn, we like to fly EasyJet, we eat at Nando's, which, judging by the people I work with, is definitely true. We've got the shop at Sainsbury's, yeah, that's us. Barclays is their favourite bank. That makes sense with all their digital work. So this is kind of contributing to what you might think of as the fluffier aspects of a persona, but it's these things that really help to round out those people and help us to empathise with them. And that's how you can create something that maybe looks like this. There are lots of different ways of visualizing your personas. This is one that I worked on with one of our clients. And you can see I've given him a photo. I've given him a name. I've called him Matt. He's 31. He's the owner of his company. I've given him a quote. So he's saying, I'm really excited to be running my own business, and I want to ensure I have the best chance of success. That gives me a bit of insight into what he's thinking about, all based on the research that I've done to this point. I've also got over there on the left, as I look at it, the key attributes of this persona. So on a sliding scale, the extent to which he is time-rich or time-poor, whether he's answering to others or the sole decision-maker in his business, his propensity to buy, and so on. Again, derived from the research I've done up to this point. I've added some information about his technology and web use, so whether he's on a mobile or on a laptop and what kinds of platforms he'll be operating on, and also the websites that he likes to look at. Again, some of this taken from analytics data, but a lot of it coming from the research. I've got some challenges that he's facing down the side, just to remind myself and my team what he's thinking about and what's motivating him. And then I've written up in the top corner a bit of a summary of Matt. So in this particular example, it says, Matt is our new business owner. He's currently operating from home. He's hungry for information and does his best to read as much as he can to equip him to run his business successfully, but he's limited in time. He appreciates bite-sized content and quick responses, and he is best suited to graphical content, guides, listicles, and social interactions. So this is one of 4 personas that I use with this particular client, and this is the way that we've visualized it to use that persona to inform our strategies. So that's building them, 4 steps. We start with our basic audience understanding. Step 2 is to apply the motivations to those audience members. Step 3 is to research the topics and interest areas that appeal to them. And step 4 is to actually build out those personas with some human aspects too. So how are you going to use these personas then to guide your strategy? Well, again, various different ways. For me, the most powerful thing though about personas is that they give us a shared language with which to discuss our audience in all of their complexities. So that means that you need to document and share these personas. Whether you're in-house or working in an agency, make sure that everyone working on that account knows about the personas and therefore understands who we're trying to appeal to. Some people even choose to put their personas up on the wall in their office. So this is one example that I found. You'd really struggle to forget who your audience is if you're walking past that every day. Also, use your personas as a discussion point. So, is this right for Dylan? That's a question that we used to ask back when I worked at Crystal Ski. And Dylan was our persona that basically represented a part of our 18 to 30s market. And whenever we were having a marketing discussion, talking about new campaigns, we'd ask, is this right for Dylan? And because we've built that persona and we've got that understanding of that audience, it really helped to guide our strategies. You can use it for persona-driven keyword research and theme research as well. So when you're doing your keyword research, you can segment it by personas and think, what types of terms are they likely to be looking for? If anyone in the room is using stats or anything similar, I find this really cool to help segment out my persona keywords. So in this example, I've created different data views, and we can see that Mark, my entrepreneur, he's got his own data view, and within that I've segmented out some different keywords, so I can see how many of the keywords that appeal to this persona appear on page 1. So how visible I am to this persona. And I can also split it out by the types of content that come up in the SERPs when people search for these terms. So in this particular example, 407 of the search terms that are applicable to this persona generate video search results. So I might think to myself, we should try creating more videos to appeal more to this persona. You can use your personas as well for your brand story alignment. And this is something I talk about quite a bit, and your brand story is basically the USPs, the key selling points that you want to talk about in your business. And personas help to make sure that we don't come across as too salesy in our messaging. So there's a couple of links there to some more information on this, but essentially what we can do is build a bit of a grid, put our brand stories down one side, our personas across the top, and we can make sure and map out that we're telling the stories in the best way for each one of those segments of our target audience. You can use your personas in your content and PR planning as well. So I've provided a link there to an article written by my colleague Ed, who's somewhere in the audience, which is a really nice post on how to apply personas to your content marketing strategies. But for me, the most important thing is that once we've gone through this process of creating personas and better understanding our audience, you don't just leave them by the wayside. These are tools for you. These should accompany you every step of your marketing journey. That's everything from me today. I've provided some additional resources in the final slide, and you can access all of my slides on the URL up there. And any questions, any feedback at all, feel free to get in touch. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks for that, Laura. Really enjoyed it.